Well, hello. It has been a while since I last posted, so I appreciate you stopping by. But we're back, and we're here to talk about Palantir and President Biden's infrastructure plan. So for those of you who don't already know what Palantir is a software company that provides artificial intelligence-driven software solutions for the government and for private companies to help them manage data and intelligence. And I want to talk about how Palantir fits into and benefits from President Biden's infrastructure plan, the American Jobs Plan. Before we can understand how Palantir benefits from Biden's infrastructure plan, we have to know what's in the plan itself. And so real quick, Biden's plan covers fixing highways, rebuilding bridges and upgrading ports, airports, and transit centers, rebuilding clean drinking water infrastructure, a renewed electric grid, and high-speed broadband to all Americans, modernizing homes, commercial buildings, schools, and federal buildings, creating caregiving jobs and raising wages and benefits for essential home care workers, revitalize manufacturing, ensure products are made in America, and invest in innovation, and finally, creating good-paying union jobs and train Americans for jobs of the future. So out of all of those initiatives, Palantir's Foundry software really helps out with the manufacturing, the renewed electric grid, and then updating our transit systems. All right, so let's start with manufacturing. On screen, I've got President Biden's American Jobs Plan, and we're going to roll through this to understand how Palantir benefits. So the biggest thing I can see initially is President Biden is calling on Congress to invest $50 billion to create a new office at the Department of Commerce dedicated to monitoring domestic industrial capacity and funding investments to support production of critical goods. Now, this is basically what Palantir does, right? Their software helps companies manage their supply chain. And who do you think the new office at the Department of Commerce might call upon or use to help them understand and manage and best make efficient the supply chain and manufacturing? Palantir. So why do I think Palantir is a good fit for supporting the manufacturing portion of Biden's plan? Well, Palantir's Foundry software is already being used by manufacturers to manage their supply chain. A good example of this is in 2021, February, Palantir and 3M partnered in a multi-million-dollar contract expansion to build dynamic supply chain using Foundry. And the goal of this is to assist in the digital transformation of 3M's global supply chain to help 3M make quick, effective responses to changes in demand. And some of the benefits of using Palantir's Foundry is supply chain alerting, demand forecasting, and business planning. Another example is in January of 2021, Palantir and Rio Tinto, one of the world's leading mining and metals corporation, signed a multi-year contract using Palantir's Foundry, in which they will integrate raw data from disparate or difficult to compare sources to help Rio Tinto make decisions. And since Palantir's Foundry software has a lot of usage and success already, it only makes sense that the new office at the Department of Commerce would utilize Palantir software. Now let's move on to re-energizing America's power infrastructure. Biden's plan calls upon a good chunk of money, $100 billion, to start with the creation of targeted investment tax credit that incentivizes the build-out of 20 gigawatts of high-voltage capacity power lines and mobilize tens of billions of dollars in private capital off the sidelines. Now, building out at least 20 gigawatts of high-voltage capacity power lines would require a significant amount of coordination and understanding of where your power demands are. And who better to do that than Palantir by building a digital twin of our electric grid to help us understand where we need to put these lines first, who we need to prioritize. And Biden's plan calls upon establishing a new grid deployment authority at the Department of Energy, who might very well use Palantir's Foundry software to build a digital twin and help them make decisions. Biden's plan also calls for establishing an energy efficiency and clean electricity standard, EECES, which will incentivize more efficient use of existing infrastructure and continuing to leverage the carbon pollution-free energy provided by existing sources like nuclear and hydropower. Once again, Palantir's Foundry software will be very useful in building a digital twin to understand our current infrastructure, our power production from nuclear and hydropower, to better make decisions and more efficiently use the money that is being allocated to Biden's plan. Palantir's Foundry software makes a very good fit for supporting the renewed electric grid effort in Biden's plan because they already have experience doing this kind of stuff. In 2014, Palantir and BP signed a contract to digitize their oil infrastructure and help them build a digital twin of BP's infrastructure to optimize the collection and distribution of oil. Now, in February of 2021, BP announced an extension of this contract to help BP transition towards net zero carbon emissions by 2050 or sooner. I mean, this sounds an awful lot like what Biden's plan is calling for, with retooling their existing infrastructure and expanding upon it to build a better renewable energy electric grid. Now, another company that's using Palantir and their Foundry software is Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, which signed a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract using Palantir's Foundry to streamline data management to improve its electric operation and asset management, which results in enhanced electric system safety and grid reliability. Palantir's experience with supporting electric companies and electric utility companies is a good validation that their software is a good fit for supporting the renewed electric grid infrastructure that Biden's plan is calling for. And finally, let's talk about the public transit update. This one might be a little bit of a stretch, but I'm going to try and make some sense. So let's read this real quick. Modernizing public transit. Households that take public transportation to work have twice the commute time, and households of color are twice as likely to take public transportation. Our current transit infrastructure is inadequate. The Department of Transportation estimates a repair backlog of $105 billion, representing more than 24,000 buses, 5,000 rail cars, 200 stations, and thousands of miles of track signals and power systems in need of replacement. This translates to service delays and disruptions that leave riders stranded and discourage transit use. Biden's plan is calling upon Congress to invest $85 billion to modernize existing transit and help agencies expand their systems to meet rider demand. This investment will double federal funding for public transit, spend down the repair backlog, and bring bus rapid transit and rail service to communities and neighborhoods across the country. So I could see a scenario where the Department of Transportation might utilize Palantir's Foundry software to once again build a digital twin of their transit infrastructure to understand what the current state is, and then how best to roll out and use the money to update their transit system. Now, in the same way that Palantir's Foundry software helps with supply chain, I could see how Palantir's software could be used to create a digital twin of the transit system and then help make better decisions when you're upgrading that infrastructure. Like how many buses need to go here, how many subways need to go here, what's the current routes like, and where's our current rider demand. All right, now let's move on to electrifying vehicles. Biden's plan is proposing a $174 billion investment to win the EV market. His plan will enable automakers to spur domestic supply chains from raw materials to parts, retool factories to compete globally, and support American workers to make batteries and EVs. Once again, this is manufacturing related, and very likely some of those companies that are receiving this investment might use Palantir's Foundry software to help them manage their new supply chain. Now, this money will also be used to establish grant and incentive programs to build a national network of 500,000 EV chargers by 2030, which will be quite an endeavor. And once again, Palantir's software can be used to project demand and help most efficiently roll out these electric vehicle chargers. So the way I see it, Palantir's Foundry software is crucial in efficiently rolling out Biden's American Jobs Plan, and would very likely be used to support manufacturers, electric vehicle manufacturers, and the government. If or when the American Jobs Plan passes, we could see explosive growth in the amount of contracts that Palantir receives. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for any news like that, any new contracts that get awarded after Biden's plan is released. Additionally, Palantir is doing a double-click event, so I suggest you check that out as well. I might do a video on covering that, so we'll see. But I appreciate you guys stopping by. If you liked the video, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.